Hello yogis, I hope this video finds you well. This is going to be the third video in the series on the Bhagavad Gita. We are in the scene of the middle of the battle. Krishna has just explained to Arjuna that your soul is eternal, that it never dies, it never was born, nothing can hurt it, and that it is literally impossible for him to commit an error if he goes and fights this battle. And Arjuna's main problem with the battle is that he sees people that he knows and he respects, and they're great warriors, and people that he knows are great at what they do, and they're people that he loves, they're his friends. And so he cries out to Krishna, which is incarnation of Vishnu, and Krishna starts explaining to him about the nature of things. And so those were the first two, was just setting up the stage of the battle, and then going over the nature of the soul and basically introducing the concept of Atman, which, by the way, the main bifurcation between a Hindu and a Buddhist, for the most part, nothing's completely 100%, right? Like, there's always going to be outliers to what I say. But whether or not the soul exists, whether or not there is a soul, is essentially the bifurcation of a Hindu versus a Buddhist, in my opinion, right? So the Hindus say there is an Atman, there is this eternal thing that will never be destroyed, called the Atman, right? It's your soul. Some of the Buddhists, most of the Buddhists, say there isn't a soul. Emptiness, right? You talk about the emptiness, that is how you get substance, right? Only because you have nothing can you have an object, right? So you need both. And so anyway, there's a lot of deep thought and philosophy and debate on both of those, concepts, whether there's a soul or not. And you could spend the rest of your life, researching that. And you probably, I don't know where you get. I've been researching it for a while, and I've oscillated multiple times between there is a God, there isn't a God, there's 100 gods or 1,000,000 gods, there is, we're all gods. So anyway, it's kind of a grand adventure. I currently believe we do have a soul, and I currently am not an atheist, but I reserve the right to change my mind. But anyway, I'm kind of going off on a tangent. But so chapter 3, in this, Arjuna and Krishna continue to talk, and Krishna explains, the value of work and essentially working to the best of your ability with virtue. And that's what we're going to dive in here. I needed to change copies of what I was reading from because I don't want to run the risk of getting any type of violations for reading too much. I was under the impression that if I was reading an ancient text, that it didn't really matter about the translation, but that was incorrect. So I'm using an older copy of the Gita right now, which it's kind of like when you're reading the King James version of the Bible, the these and the thous and the begots and all this kind of language that in the 21st century we don't use a lot. And so we're kind of there now with this new copy, but here we go. Arjuna is speaking at this point. Thou whom all mortals praise, Janadharna, if meditation be a nobler thing than action, wherefore then, great Kesava, do you impel me to do this dreadful fight? Now, am I by your doubtful speech disturbed? Tell me one thing, and tell me certainly, by what road should I find a better end? So he's asking, what do I do here to just get to the best outcome? Krishna, I told you, blameless Lord, there's two paths shown to this world, two schools of wisdom. First, the Sanghayas, which does save in a way of works, prescribed by reason, and next is yoga, which bids, attained by meditation, spiritually. Yet these are one. No man shall escape from act by shunning action. Nay, none shall come by mere renouncements unto perfection. No, in no jot of time, at any time, rests any actionless by nature's law, compels him, even unwilling, into action. For thought is act in fancy, I just lost my... He who sits suppressing all the instruments of flesh, yet in his idle heart thinking of them, plays the inept and guilty hypocrite. So he's saying, even if you abstain from non-virtuous behavior, but if you spend your time still thinking about it and relishing in it, you're a hypocrite. But he who with strong body, serving mind, gives up his mortal powers to worthy work, not seeking gain. Talks about this a lot in the Gita. Don't seek gain. Arjuna, such on one is honorable. Do your allotted task. Work is more excellent than idleness. The body's life proceeds not lacking work. There is a task of holiness to do. Unlike world-binding toil, which bindeth not, the faithful soul such earthly duty do, free from desire, and you shall well perform your heavenly purpose. And so in the beginning, when all men were made, and with mankind the sacrifice, do this, work and sacrifice, increase and multiply with sacrifice. And this shall be your kamduk, your cow of plenty, giving back her milk of all abundance. Worship the gods thereby. The gods shall yield you grace. The meats you crave, the gods will grant you labor, when it pays tithes in the altar flame. But if one eats fruits of the earth, render the kindly heaven. No gift of toil the thief steals from this world. And so what he's saying is sacrifice. And in the yoga tradition, we call this tapas. And, austerity, sacrifice, hardship. Seek out those spiritual hardships. One way is if there's a sin that you indulge in that you know that's wrong and you shouldn't do it. I know it's an austerity to not do it. And so in this, it's encouraging you to make those sacrifices and then also increase and multiply, work and sacrifice. This is from Krishna. You who eat food after your sacrifice are quit of fault, but they that spread a feast all for themselves eat in sin and drink of sin. So he's saying the gluttons, the people who just, what's the word I'm looking for? The libertines, they eat and drink of sin. By food the living live. Food comes of rain, and rain comes by the pious sacrifice. And sacrifice is paid with the tithes of toil. Thus action is of Brahma, who is one, the only all-pervading, at all times, present in sacrifice, he that abstains, to help the rolling wheels of this great world, gluttoning in his idle defense, lives of lost life, shameful and vain, existing for himself. Self-concentrated, serving self alone, no part hath he in the ought, nothing achieved. Not wrought or unwrought touches him, no hope of help for all the living things of earth depends from him. Therefore thy task prescribed with spirit unattached, gladly performed. So it keeps talking about you have a right to your work. It's in the last chapter, but you don't have a right to the results of that work, right? And it's just kind of saying it again. Since in performance of duty, of plain duty, man mounts to be his highest bliss by works alone. Janak and ancient saints reached blessedness. Moreover, so he's saying by ancient saints, just by doing work, just by trying to achieve the goal, they made it there just by working. Actions that shouldn't embrace and what the wise choose, the unwise people take. What best men do, the multitude will follow. Look on me, thou son of Pritha, in the three wide worlds. I am not bound to any toil, no height, await no scale, no gift remains to gain. Yet I act here, and God's telling him, I don't have to act. Krishna's saying, I don't have to do anything, but I'm still here, right? I still showed up, even though I don't have to do this. And he explains why. Earnest and watchful, those that look to me for guidance, sinking back to sloth again, because I slumbered, they would decline from good, and I should break earth's order and commit her offspring into ruin, Bharata. So Krishna's telling him, if I didn't act right now, even though I'm God, I would be letting down everybody. He's like, so even me, God, all-powerful, I still need to do this. I still have a duty here, and I have to be part of this as well. Even as the unknowing toil wedded to sense, so let the enlightened toil, sense freed but set to bring the world deliverance and its bliss, not sowing in those simple busy hearts seeds of despair. Yea, let each play his part in all he finds to do with an unyoked soul. All things are everywhere by nature wrought in interaction of the qualities. The fool, cheated by self, thinks, this I did, and that I wrought. But oh, the strong-armed prince, he's saying, the fool says, I did this, I did that. Oh, a better lesson mine, knowing the play of visible things within the world of sense, and how the qualities must qualify. Standeth aloof even from his acts. The untaught live mixed with them, knowing not nature's way. Of highest aims unwitted, slow and dull, those make thou not to stumble, having the light. But all thy dues discharging for my sake, with meditation centered inwardly, seeking no profit, satisfied and serene, heedless of issue, fight. They who shall keep my ordinance thus, the wise and willing hearts, have quittance from the issue of all their acts. But those who disregard my ordinance, thinking they know not, and fall lost, confused and foolish, soothe the instructed one. And so here he's saying, go, do not try to gain profit, don't worry about glory, go perform your function and your duty as you must. Let me take care of all the rest. Confused and foolish, soothe the instructed one, doth of its kind, following what fits them most. And lower creatures of their kind, in vain, contending against the law, needs must it be, the objects of the sense will stir the sense to like and dislike. So we're back to attachments and aversions. And I was just talking about this in the video on the Dhammapada today. And it comes back to like and dislike. Yet the enlightened man yields not to these. So it's saying, don't worry about what you like and what you dislike. Irrelevant. This is hard. I know. Like we like pleasure, and I want to avoid pain, right? But it's saying here you should be completely indifferent to both. Don't worry about it. Do your duty. I know it's disciplined mind, right? This is he's talking to somebody that wants to be a sadhu, right? It's an aspirant of the holy path. So yield not to these things, knowing your enemies, right? Finally, this is better, that one do his own tasks as he may, even though he fail, than to take the tasks that aren't his, though they may seem good. To die performing duty is no ill, but he who seeks other roads shall wander still. And so he's saying, do your duty, even if you fail. That is better than if you went and did something that wasn't right, okay? And so this comes down to our dharma, right? I have so many great examples of this in my own life. I was in corporate America for several years, and I had a big title and fancy car, a nice house, all this stuff. And when I got in there, I realized that, evil was being committed, right? Maybe it was legal, maybe it was morally, whatever, celebrated, but I knew that what I was doing was wrong. Now, I was just an executive in a very large corporation, but I understood that defrauding workers of just wages is one of the three things that really angers God, according to Catholics. And a little asterisk there, according to Catholic theologians. So my point is I had 35 employees that deserved more money, that we met our goals and whatever, and they refused to give them money. They refused to raise their standards of living even a little bit, my business partners. And I had to remove myself from that job because it didn't fit my dharma, right? And so that's just an example in my life where I made a lot of money and whatever. And anyway, I'm broke now, but oh my gosh, I'm at least fulfilling my purpose, right? I'm doing what I'm supposed to do instead of just grinding it out or whatever. But it's just a personal story. But that's what he's saying is if you go and live somebody else's dharma, and even though it feels right or whatever, you get accolades and all these other things, you're just going to wander. You're not going to find what you're looking for. Do what you're supposed to do. Find your duty, right? Make sure it aligns with your internal values. Another funny one was I was a yoga instructor and I got a job at a butcher. Like ahimsa, right? You're not supposed to I didn't mean to. I didn't really know it was a butcher. It was a restaurant, and I just got a job there. And anyway, it turns out part of it was like this butcher, and I mean, I'm around these poor dead cows like all day, and I mean, like, it bothered me. Like, here I am, a yoga instructor, and I'm, participating in this thing. Doesn't work. Yeah, you got to pick one. So anyway, back to the text. Arjuna, yet tell me, teacher. And so Arjuna is talking now. Yet tell me, teacher, by what force does man go to his ill unwilling, as if one pushed him to that evil path? And he says, karma. Arjuna says, karma. That's what brought us here. It's your karma, Arjuna, right? Passion it is, born of the darknesses, which pusheth him, mighty of appetite, sinful and strong as this, man's enemy. As smoke blots the white fire, as clinging rust mars the bright mirror, as the womb surrounds the babe unborn, so is the world. Sorry, let's see. Of things foiled. The babe unborn, so is the world of things. Foiled, soiled, enclosed in this desire of flesh. The wise fall caught in it, the unresting foe. It is of wisdom, wearing countless forms, fair but deceitful, subtle as a flame. Sense, mind, and reason, these, O Kunti's son, are booty for it in its play with these. It maddens man, beguiling, blinding him. Therefore, thou noblest child of Bharata, govern your heart, constrain that entangled sense, resist the false, soft sinfulness which saps knowledge and judgment. That's like one of my favorite lines in this. Resist the false, soft sinfulness which saps knowledge and judgment. Yea, the world is strong, but what discerns it is stronger, and the mind strongest, and higher over all the ruling soul. Wherefore, perceiving him who reigns supreme, put forth full force of soul in my own soul. Fight, vanquish foes and doubts. Dear hero, slay what haunts thee in fond shapes and would betray. And that's the end of the chapter. And so, again, this is Krishna, having a conversation with Arjuna and saying, doing your work and your role in life is, even if you fail, I know I just said this, but even if you fail, it's better than if you succeed in something that isn't your path. And so part of our lives is to determine what our dharma is, right? We go into our roles and hey, is this working for me? And another thing is, if you're a sadhu, the world isn't going to understand you, right? If you're a warrior, most of the world isn't going to understand you, right? A sadhu is a holy person. And, when you look in the epistles in the New Testament, I know I'm kind of jumping tracks here, but when you look in the epistles in the New Testament, most of the messages in that is beware of false teachers and false teachings. And I think a lot of us, we get caught up in trying to figure out what's right and wrong. And we have to learn, right? And we go make mistakes and we suffer, right? And we learn aversion and attachment and all these different things. And as we mature in life, hopefully we progress to a point where we choose spiritual things over material things. And we're all on our own dharmic path, and we are in, you hear about the reign of Kali, right? Or maybe I haven't explained this, but Kali Yuga, right? We're in this era of just unbelievable materialism, and people are very wealthy, and in America and the West, we're dealing with people that are really obese. Obesity in the United States is like unbelievable right now. Just people, we have all this technology, we have the phones, and we have, access to more knowledge and more opportunity than we've ever had in the history of humanity, right? But for some reason, again, I can only speak about in the West, the happiness index is much lower. And I should even say something better. Let's not worry about happiness. Happiness is not a good standard to seek. But contentment, on the other hand, is a very good standard, right? To be content no matter what, right? If it's raining outside or if the sun is out, right? To be content in this moment. And anyway, I am enjoying this so much. I had kind of stopped studying these texts. Just life got busy, and I missed it so much. And so I'm very grateful that you're joining me for this. As always, if you have any questions, by all means, put them in the comments, and I will reach out to you as soon as I can. But yeah, thank you so much for hanging out with me this long, and I will put more up tomorrow. But I hope you're having a wonderful day wherever you are. And remember, you don't have to love your job, but do it like you're working for God, okay? You know, if you're a street sweeper, go street sweep for God. You're a dishwasher, go dishwash for God. You know, make your life a song for the divine instead of trying to take any type of acclaim or credit or profit. Just give it all to God. Now, by the way, I'm going to call out my own hypocrisies because let me tell you, I've been very materialistic in my life, and so I feel a little awkward, you know, saying don't do something that I've been very guilty of. So I'm just going to own it right now and tell you that, you know, there's been times in my life where I've absolutely been owned by materialism, but now we're on a different kind of viewpoint and learning how to be content with, you know, this gift of life. So anyway, as you are, I think you're wonderful, and I just hope you have a great day wherever you are. Go do something kind for somebody and don't get caught. Go be sneaky and go do something really nice for somebody, but don't get caught. Till we meet again, namaste.